Chair of the Holyoke City Council's Finance Committee. To my left is Peter Tallman, member of the committee. To my right, Michael Sullivan, member of the committee. We'll be joined shortly by City Councilor Leahy, and City Councilor Bartley has a commitment this evening and will not be with us. We are joined by, in the chambers, City Councilor Terrence Murphy and our mayor, Joshua Garcia. Welcome to both of you. And by Zoom at the moment, we have some guests, but no other councilors yet. This is a finance subcommittee meeting as scheduled. We are on Zoom. We are being streamed and live on the public access channel. These meetings are recorded. On item number 1.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 1 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Introduced under the Chair of the Finances name that thereby be appropriate and transfer in fiscal year 2022, $800 from longevity into the overtime accounts. On the motion to take off the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We already did that, so moved. With us, we have Damian Cody, the department head, our mayor, Garcia, which is a pleasure to see you because I think both have signed off on this transfer as traditional. Damian, if you could just walk through why there's a surplus in longevity and why the request to transfer into overtime.
I just need to adjust the audio setting on the computer.
Hang on 1 second, Damian. Technical adjustments. Can I get them going, or
You're all set.
you have to unmute them?
No, it was just muting this computer.
Okay, sounds. Hi, Damian. You should be good now.
All right, yeah. It was pretty broken up there, but now it seems a little more clear. So the transfer is the same. We just put in this request a little while ago. Same idea. This is just to cover some overtime for one of our inspectors for making up for the position that we don't have filled.
We got that. That's been a few times before us. And why the surplus in longevity?
We lost somebody that would have gotten the payment. So it was funded for somebody we planned on having, but they left employment with the city. So that's just an additional amount of money we don't need.
Is there any questions from the committee? Any further discussion?
Make a motion to approve the transfer from longevity to overtime.
Motion made second that the transfer be approved. This committee will recommend that to the full city council for next Tuesday's meeting. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Passes, Damian. We'll take care of it next Tuesday, I'm sure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
A motion to take up number 2 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made second to take item 2 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Introduced underneath the chairman's name that in order with the accordance of Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the HUD Home Investment Partnership American Rescue Plan, known as HOMARP, grant and authorizes establishment of fund and or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. This grant was awarded for the purpose of affordable housing, homelessness support, and rental assistance. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Tanya, our city auditor, Dojic, is with us. And this came in under the term of Mayor, which one?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
September.
No, this came in recently,
Okay.
Counselor.
I thought it was different than what we received in the past. Mayor Garcia, did you want to address the committee on,
I think, is Alicia on, or? She said she was going to join us tonight. I'm not sure if she's just running late.
We can hold off.
Hold off, yeah.
We're, Jeff, Alicia Zoller with us yet? I don't see her.
No.
Okay, why don't we table this for a few minutes and wait till Alicia joins?
Motion to table. Second.
It's at the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to take item number 3 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 3 off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? This is vacation buyback request of $915 divided to the executive director of $675, the assistant director $240. Recommended passage was signed by Mayor Murphy and submitted to the city council back in early December. I think the Mayor Murphy is a typo. Okay, we'll catch up to that. Mayor Garcia. But what this department is, hang on one second, I'm in the wrong. I don't have the second page.
I don't either have the second page of that one. No.
This department is, anybody out there?
Is this the Council on Aging, Joe?
I think so, Tanya. We've asked that we get this into, I guess it's into Lotus when the agendas and orders are printed, and for some reason, it just never works. But with us from the Council on Aging is,
Neve?
Nevaeh, are you with us? Can you hear us?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
I can-
thank you. I think you've done this before. We're looking to understand why the transfer, why there's a surplus, or you don't need these funds in vacation buyback, and what's the purpose of putting them into the new line items?
Sure. The vacation buyback is excess at this point because we had people leave employment with the city, and the transfers in are to accommodate the increase in the PSA contract.
And that's, Tanya, these are the transfers for the full contract?
This is a transfer for the PSA just for the Council on Aging. I hadn't realized that the 2% increase was not budgeted within that budget.
Okay, is this the only transfer we need to address this evening for that purpose, or?
I think there's another.
Yes.
Okay. Is anybody here from the law department? I'll explain in a second. No problem. We had the MOU with this contract at our last finance committee meeting, and we found out that we needed this transfer.
That's a different,
Thinking,
It's not it, is it?
that's a different contract.
It is different, yeah.
This is the PSA that we did, and Tanya, you correct me if I'm wrong, but earlier on, late this summer, early in September. And I think this part, these two employees, the transfer for these two employees just was not included. Am I right, Tanya?
Yes, that's correct.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah. Tanya, how much does that leave in that vacation buyback account after the 915 is gone?
Did she hear you?
Tanya, are you there?
Ooh, I'm sorry, I was muted. I don't have that number in front of me right now, but I can definitely look it up for you if you like. Or pay-
Navi, do you know?
The original allocation on that line was $3,000, so that would leave $2,085.
Okay, and is that going to be surplus as well, or will that be?
No, part of that is going to go out on the next order to cover for the UFCW contract. I think it's item 4.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? So the chair can report this out clearly. This contract was vetted by the city council, and we thought the money was in the budget to pay for this. And this is just catch up to the contract to pay for these two COLAs. Is that correct, Tanya?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion,
Make a motion to approve the transfer of the vacation buyback to executive director and assistant director, $915.
motion made and second to approve the transfer. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Okay, we will report this out to the full city council on Tuesday and let them know the reasons for this transfer. Now, are you here for the contract that is in front of us this evening?
I think it might be the next couple of them,
I have no idea.
4 and 5.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's 4 and 5. You said longevity.
So, Tanya, if I'm correct, items 4 and 5 will cover the contract I was talking about, which is item 6. So if we could take 4, 5, 6, and 7 up.
Motion to take, suspend the rules, take items 4, 5, and 6.
And 7 is
And
a copy of the original
Seven's a copy,
contract. All those in favor? Any opposed? Just to read into the record, the first transfer is a request. This is the Council on Aging from longevity, $1,385. Vacation buyback, $265 for a total of $1,650. 2, nutritional director, $975. Health services, $675. Item number 5, transfer is from longevity, $1,385. Vacation buyback, $1,180. Total of $2,565 to the nutrition director, $975. Health services, $675. Executive director, $675. Assistant director, $240. Total $2,565. The agreement is item number 6. This is what we spoke about with Jeff Jones being present at our last meeting and kept in committee for the purposes of catching up with these transfers. And we also requested a copy of the existing contract so we could compare, and our city solicitor, Lisa Ball, provided that with us, and that's item number 7. So this is up for discussion, and just let me make a reference. I talked to our city solicitor. She did not negotiate this contract, although she will join us if necessary by Zoom. She's at a family commitment this evening. The individual attorney who did do the contract, I believe, is either not with us or not available this evening. However, if there are any additional questions, I think we can handle the transfers. If there's any additional questions, we will do those. We'll get those answers for our next meeting from our law department. So, on the transfers, would you like to walk us through these transfers?
Sure. The first thing I'd like to say is I believe that item 5 is actually a duplication of items 3 and 4. That was the way that the transfer was originally put in to cover all employees, and then it was requested that it be separated into 2, which it was as items 3 and 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it looked like it.
It does make sense.
It's double.
Now, is that because item 3 is actually for a different contract?
Right. Item 3 is the PSA contract, and item 4 is the UFCW contract.
Okay.
Item 5 was the original request,
So-
which was for both.
What we'll be doing, and thank you for that, because that explains why item 5 is still here. But what we'll do is we'll dispose of item 5 if item 4 takes care of the contract itself and everybody's happy.
Perfect.
makes-
Okay,
okay.
so
I think you can-
longevity, again, there was extra money there because of employees leaving, same with vacation buyback. And then in order to accommodate the increase per the UFCW contract, there's a $975 increase for the nutrition director position and a $675 increase for the health services position. The other increases, because those positions people left and then new people came in, there was enough time during the hiring process that there's actually enough money to cover the increase.
Can you, in lieu of that, we don't have a attorney from the law department, and although we did meet with Jeff Jones at our last meeting, would you be able to tell us, are these increases COLA increases and the percentage amount?
Yes, they are COLA increases, and it was at 2%.
Thank you. Is there any questions about the contract besides the 2% increase that anybody has?
I'm also happy to answer any of the questions about the MOA. If there are any, I was present at the negotiations.
Thank you. Jeff told us that there were a couple of other things that could impact your budget in the future. Is there any issues with the longevity increases?
No, none that I'm aware of. In terms of budget, I've budgeted for those.
In terms of budget, yes. You're going to
Yes.
budget with those. And I think we now can compare those if anybody wants to compare them, but they look to be fairly reasonable. And then the addition of Juneteenth is just catching up with modern day times as a holiday. And for some reason, they had to change day labor to Labor Day. That's a lot of catching up, Mayor Garcia, I think, Looks behind here. And this is a one-year contract, if I understand, because Mayor Murphy told us he didn't want to do more than one-year contracts because he wants to make Mayor Garcia work this coming year.
It is in fact a one-year contract, yes.
And the only question I had, and Jeff, I forget if he answered it, was under miscellaneous, line item number 9, the wellness instructor, and exactly what that means. Is there a financial impact?
There is. It's a small financial impact, but it's already budgeted for in our training line. So there isn't any increase needed to that line. And it's in line. Go ahead, I'm
No,
sorry.
you go ahead. Someone's going to ask me next Tuesday how much of that small impact is.
It's around $350 to pay for the licensure for the person who teaches. At this point, I think it's 8 to 10 classes a week. So it's well worth the $350 investment for the 3-year licensure.
Thank you.
And it's,
That's in fitness, I think.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, Neve, that's the fitness classes, right?
it's the sort of bulk of our standard fitness classes. It doesn't cover things like Zumba and Tai Chi. But it covers our healthy joints classes and our osteo exercises and a number of other classes that we've added since bringing this new person on board. And it is in alignment with the fact that we pay for our social worker and our nurse on staff. We pay for their license renewals.
Thank you. And I just would say, I know I've been there a few times when they're doing, and there's a lot, especially, it was amazing online people doing it as well, but, obviously it'd be nice if we get to the point where we could get back in person doing it, but those are definitely things that people wanted to participate in, and, they're definitely both from a psychological as well as a physical aspect of health, so I just want to make sure we endorse that.
Any further discussion?
I just have one.
Counselor Tomlin.
Yeah, thank you, Neve. Thank you for coming down and discussing it. The only question I had was the employees on Article 9, the hours and overtime. Your transportation employees, you're changing that when somebody leaves from 40 hours to 35 hours?
Correct, and that was something that during the last contract negotiation, so the contract that ended in June of 2021, we have, at this point, we only have one employee left that's still at a full-time of 40 hours. We were asked to bring it in line as people left to make every position 35 hours to come into alignment with other full-time positions in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask one more question?
And that stays the same, Naive? That just stays the same, right? That's what it's been.
Well, that's a change from the last contract. Just to include the transportation employees as part of this move from 40 to 35 hours. In the previous contract, it was only there for the two nurses that we had on staff.
Maybe they changed it from 40 when somebody leaves. They changed it from 40 to 35.
Thank you. I heard Article 9, I went to line 9. I got it. Counselor Murphy.
And
Oops,
yeah,
go ahead.
it is.
Go ahead, Neve.
Nave, go ahead.
Oh, it is only when somebody leaves, so we're not reducing anybody's hours who is a current employee, but when somebody leaves and we are hiring to fill that position, it just happened, we hired a new driver, and so they came in at 35, the person who had left in May had been at 40.
Counselor Murphy.
Yeah, Neve, are you up to snuff in terms of staffing with cooks now? Is that?
We actually have one position left to be filled, and it has it's been posted, and the closing date to apply is this Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
So we're doing
Hey, what we're going to have to do is on
5, we're going to deny, is it 5?
5 will deny, 4 we're going to adopt, and this will just finally ratify the MOU, the contract. So why don't we do it quickly, separately? Item number 4, the motion is to adopt, recommend to the full city council this transfer to honor the MOU between the local 1459 be adopted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5, Tanya, correct us if we're wrong, but item 5 we no longer need, so we're just going to vote to deny it, return it to auditor.
Correct.
Thank you.
Motion to deny.
Deny, return to auditor.
Turn order. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? This is a formality. This is that the MOU between the city and 1459 is now ratified. We can just report that to the full city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7 goes into the archives. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Nave, thank you. This is not the way we usually do this. Mayor Garcia, this is not the way we usually do this. And I thank everyone because we're at the end of a term, and if we don't get this out by next Tuesday, it could be well into January before we have a new finance committee and a new opportunity to vote on it. And we'd like to make sure, and if they haven't, that the employees get their COLAs coming to them. Usually we do this with the negotiating attorney, the department head, and we had Jeff Jones, with us last meeting. So we're just going to connect all the dots. But you were very helpful this evening, and if we sounded confused, we are. But thank you.
Thank you.
I see Alicia. You wanna go
Alicia's
back?
here, yeah. Motion to go back to, was it item number 2?
Motion to take item 2 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Alicia, welcome. We've been waiting. Not patiently, we've just been waiting for you.
Good morning.
This-
Good evening. My
this is-
apologies. I thought for some reason it showed up on my calendar at 7, but I'm here, so
Now,
happy
committees,
to
we
answer any
always,
questions.
like to get earlier than the full city council. It's a long story. They all should be starting at 6, but that's okay. 6:30 for finance. This is the ARP funds that came in, HUD home funds. We're just looking for an explanation of what the monies are about, how they can be used, and how Mayor Garcia is with us, how they're gonna be used. And what our
All right,
role
well, thank
is.
you. Thank you for having me tonight. The city was notified that we would be receiving $3,329,224 in home funds on top of the existing home funds that we received for FY '21. These home funds were allocated by Congress through the American Rescue Plan Act, which is why they're designated as home art funds. They were awarded to the Holyoke Chicopee Westfield Consortium. Of the 3.3 million, Holyoke will have use of about 52% of that. And then the remaining percentages would be used for administration and planning for the 3 communities. And then Chicopee and Westfield each also get a percentage. The use of the funds has not been determined yet. The reason that I'm asking for the grant to be accepted at this point is because Westfield and Chicopee, because they're tied to us, they're starting to work on how they're going to use the funds. So I wanted to make sure that we had everything in place for when they start billing the city of Holyoke. The funds are consistent with the home funds, although they're far more narrow in their use. So in reviewing the guidance that HUD has provided, they are to be used for what HUD is describing as qualifying individuals in 4 categories. And the city will determine what those categories, how we're going to fund the categories. But it can be used for TBRA, which is tenant-based rental assistance. It can be used for development and services of a congregate shelter, so for homeless sheltering. It can be used for affordable housing, and it can be used for rental housing rehab. So 4 very specific uses, but also with these funds, there's very specific end users or end beneficiaries. And those are folks that are currently homeless, according to the federal definition of homelessness. Folks who are at imminent risk of homelessness, so those folks that might not have a place to stay within 14 days of the provision of assistance. We can use it for veterans who are imminently homeless or homeless. And then we can use it for folks with disabilities who are homeless or imminently homeless. One of the challenges that I see with the funds and why I think it's going to take several months for us to determine the best use of the money is we need to do a comprehensive public outreach and assessment of the community to see just how many qualifying individuals, qualifying families, households we actually have that would be able to access this assistance. We would then go out and solicit proposals through an RFP process, the way we do with our other regular home funds. And then once we have the proposals in place and we've done the community assessment and we've done the community outreach, we would then put together a substantial amendment, present it to the city council, present it to the public for public comment, and then submit it to HUD. So this is only the first, and what I anticipate will probably be a 9 to 12 month process. Just to give you an idea, the additional guidance that HUD provided is 97 pages long. So we have quite a bit of administrative work to do before we could ever start to even allocate these funds.
Alicia, excuse me, on the housing assistance, would that
Yep.
include, if the powers to be, we're able to negotiate something, something along the lines of the One Holyoke project, with duplex, low-income ownership and duplex funding?
So one of the things that I'm concerned with the funding, with this particular stream of funding, is that the end users are so specific that we're going to have to figure out how many end users we have in the city, how many folks could actually benefit from the funding, and then match that to potential projects. I'm not clear at this moment whether home ownership is going to be eligible or not, just because the stability of the end beneficiary is so tenuous that I'm not sure that they would qualify, the end beneficiary would qualify for a home ownership opportunity. So that's something that is a city's priority, but I'm not sure that this stream of funding is going to be appropriate for an end use of home ownership. And just because the income limits for the end users are so low, they're only 30% median income, imminently homeless or homeless. So those are folks that generally are not ready to move into home ownership and need more of a sort of a step-up type housing, whether that's congregate shelter, affordable housing, rental assistance, that sort of thing. So there will be a public process, what I would describe as a two-step public process. The first is we're going to do some consultation work with providers. We're required to do that. So we'll be doing outreach to veterans organizations, homeless organizations, domestic violence organizations, those agencies that are working with people facing substance abuse issues, mental health issues, disability type issues, to find out what are they seeing for needs in the community. And then once we have our needs assessment done, we'll certainly make that public, and then we would need to solicit proposals. Mayor Garcia and I have not sat down and even had initial conversations about this funding, because there's such a lead up time in terms of consultation and getting our numbers together. I do plan on working with him in the transition team, in the housing committee of the transition team. We want to hear what they have to say. We don't want to recreate public processes, but there is some very specific consultation that HUD is going to require us to do.
Alicia, as you know, we vote on the home funds annual, and those monies are spent in the parameters as allowed. What is the percentage for Westfield and the percentage for Chicopee this time? These monies?
I believe it's going to be the same percentage as our consortium. I believe that's 27 and 15 respectively, Chicopee and Westfield.
27 for Chicopee?
I believe it's 27-15. Yep. And I'll double check that, and if I'm not correct, I will update you.
No problem. Just in case we're asked next Tuesday. Now, ARP monies have often gone more than 1 year. Are these monies going to be for more than 1 year?
So my anticipation is that this funding will be available for us to use through 2024 and perhaps out further, because of the amount of legwork that we need to do before we can even figure out how we're going to spend it.
Any discussion? Councilor Sullivan.
Alicia, correct me here.
Yep.
One of the things I keep hearing, I think I keep hearing you say that it can be used for congregate shelter. Mm-hmm. But what I'm seeing in front of me says that it can be used, development of non-congregate shelter is what is in the literature in front of us.
So congregate shelter could be services, and then a new shelter facility would be non-congregate. You're correct.
All right, so it can be used in effect then for both congregate and non-congregate shelter.
Yep. Depending on whether someone is looking to use it to provide services or to provide the physical location.
Well, that's a confusing one, because it makes it sound like it's only for non-congregate.
Let me just get to my notes. I have the guidance right in front of me. Preferences. Okay. So rental housing, administration and planning, rental housing, still on rental housing, let me keep flipping.
Yep.
Tenant-based rental assistance, and that's providing rental assistance directly to tenants to assist them, obviously, in paying their rent. Supportive services. And acquisition and development of non-congregate shelter. And that's defined as one or more buildings that provide private units or rooms as temporary shelter to individuals or families and does not require occupants to sign a lease or occupancy agreement. So to be clear, it's acquisition and development of non-congregate shelter so that each family, each household, each individual has a private unit or a room.
Okay, so then it is excluding congregate shelters then?
Excluding the acquisition and development of congregate shelters. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Alicia. How you doing?
Good evening. Well, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So a few things. 30% of median income. So what is that? What are we talking approximately for annual income?
So a household of one at 30% is going to be about 22 to 25,000, 22,000.
And how about a family of, say, 4? What would that be?
A family of 4 at 30% is going to be 80 is 45. I'm going to say they're about 30,000. I can get you the income limits.
Okay. And
They just shifted.
any idea what the percentage in Holyoke is of families that are below that, percentage-wise, approximately?
So we know that about 68%. I'm going to work backwards. We know about 68% of our families at last check were at 80% median income. But I can try to get to the numbers that would be at 30%. I can run that through the census.
Okay.
But it's not just families that are at 30% that are eligible for this funding. It's also tied to their current housing status.
Okay.
So the number of families that are actually homeless, the number of families that are meet the federal definition of imminently homeless, or housing, or lack of stable housing.
Okay.
So it's not just tied to an income limitation here.
Okay.
Where our other home programs and our CDBG programs are pretty straightforward. Someone comes in and we're looking strictly at their income limits. In this case, we're also looking to see what their current housing situation is. That's one of my concerns with the funding is that it's going to be a very, very specific population. We do know that we have a fair number of shelter units in the city. And so I would expect if we're thinking about moving families that are currently living in our shelter units that are operated by various agencies funded by the state, if we're looking at moving those families and households into permanent housing that would be supported by this funding, we probably have maybe 200 to 400 or 200 to 500 families that we could be servicing.
Okay. And I'm guessing based on your numbers and the percent that we're talking approximately 1.7 million that's come into Holyoke?
Correct. Correct.
And there's no commitment in terms of making a decision within the year, or no commitment in terms of actually expending the money within the year?
So at this point, I wouldn't expect to have project funding expended within the next year, just because of the amount of time that it's going to take to do the HUD required gap analysis, to do the public outreach, to do the consultation, conduct the RFP for proposals, review and underwrite those proposals. The mayor makes the determination on what home projects get funded. So I wouldn't expect that we'll have a high level of expenditure this year. I would hope that we would be able to commit to projects within the next year because we know that there's certainly a high level of need.
Okay, and let me ask you one, if there were buildings right now that are empty, but that we could rehab and be able to have families move into them at a rent that they could be much more affordable. Would that be a qualified activity?
So that does appear to be a qualifying activity. However, one of the points that HUD has made in the guidance, and I'm happy to forward this guidance to you all so you have some idea of what we're facing with this. One of the concerns is that because you're working with families that are at such low income, that the developers will have to look for other funding opportunities to be able to carry the buildings. So that when we're underwriting the operating costs and the performance for these projects, it's very likely that the families that are moving in, that those rents are not going to sustain the projects over the long term. And so HUD has already prefaced this guidance by saying that it's likely that developers will have to see additional rental subsidies in order to make the operating performance work for new projects like rehab of vacant buildings. So that's another complicating factor in this funding. Is that because you're targeting a beneficiary that's at such a low household income that the rents are going to be capped. Typically rents are capped at 30% of household income. And so those rents will probably not carry the building. So they won't pay for the maintenance and the real estate taxes and all of the things that go into the operating performance. So that's something that we're going to have to look closely at. That's something that developers are going to have to be willing to try to identify other rental subsidies. And try to find other other sources that will carry the building forward. Because we certainly don't want to have a rehab building that a developer is not able to carry and pay for.
Right. What would happen if, rather than going to a developer, we ended up looking at, knowing that we have this need, and knowing, and as you know, I'm not opposed to subsidies, but I'm opposed to lifetime subsidies. And I would much rather be in a position where we can fix up a building and create a rent that is going to be affordable for people on low income, so that in fact they are able to handle it, and that revenue at least maintains the building while we put the money up front to start with. And yes, I'm not having somebody be making a profit on it, but we would be improving the quality of life for those people. We would also be putting them in a position where they are able to afford a decent apartment, because we've made the investment up front, and we are not continuing to make investments for the next 10, 15, 20 years in terms of a rental subsidy. So would that possibly be something, or does it require a private developer?
So one of the things that, are you asking if the city could do it itself, or if we could provide the financing to ensure that there's long-term financial stability?
Either way.
Okay.
Whichever
so
way
I haven't
works.
I haven't found anything in the guidance that would prohibit the city from doing it itself. I don't think the city's capacity puts it in a position to be either a developer or a landlord. Yep. But certainly in terms of making sure that there's a sufficient investment to get the project done and get folks in there and occupied, and then maybe looking, one of the things that's not clear to me at this point is, could we provide funding to do a rental rehab and then provide the rental subsidies from this same pool of funds? Because that might solve the issue.
Okay. And okay, no, that's good. And one last thing.
To make it work.
Yeah, one last thing.
But I'm concerned because HUD doesn't typically flag those kind of issues right up front, and they've flagged it right up front that you have to be mindful of the end users.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I am trying to be mindful of them. So.
Yeah.
But one last thing in terms of veterans.
Yep.
Do we have, or do you know if we have? I know we do a pretty good job reaching out to veterans, but would we be looking to create individual units that were, or a building that would be veteran, totally veterans, or are we looking to provide veterans opportunities in a variety of buildings? Or is it a combination thereof?
So it could be a combination, and this program does lay out a preference policy, and so the city if during the consultations with organizations and with the public, if we hear that there needs to be a veterans preference or a preference for some other category of folks, we certainly could write a preference policy that we would then apply to any of the recipients of the funding.
Okay. And then.
So there is targeting and preference policies that are built in with the guidance that we can create.
Okay. And one last thing, and I know we talked about it, was the potential of having a warming shelter. Would that be part of this or no? Could that be part of this?
I don't think a warming shelter. I think that HUD is looking for more stable housing. It's really focused around housing. I could review the section on supportive services and see if a warming shelter would fall into the supportive services category. I certainly can review that.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia. I appreciate all your help.
Okay, thanks. And I will get you, I feel like I'm not quite as prepared tonight. I will get you some additional information on your questions.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Alicia, you were always prepared. We appreciate you joining us, and thank you for answering and giving us the insight that we need to know for this first step.
Okay.
I hope the money is used well in the areas that we can use it, with the guidance of Mayor Garcia, maybe future input from the city council, and I hope we always, in getting people into good rental housing, subsidies or not, is very helpful, as long as the rental housing remains on the tax rolls. And I'm just...
Absolutely.
Okay, that's just my humble opinion. Is there any further questions from the committee or anyone else? I think we need to get this adopted so Alicia can, and the other communities can start using the monies in the best timely fashion.
I make a motion to accept the provisions of the HUD Home Investment Partnerships Grant, the Home ARP Grant.
Motion made and seconded to accept the Home Investment Partnership American Rescue Plan. The total is the $3,329,24, or is that just ours? That's what we
That's the total.
That's the total.
Accept the total.
So we're accepting the total and to be
Correct.
distributed accordingly. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Alicia, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Be well.
Yep.
Motion to take item 8 off the table for discussion.
Second.
I don't know if we were going to do a couple together, but I don't know if that's...
We have to. I'm just looking to see. Is Amy with us?
Yep.
Okay. Like, for some reason, I'm not picking it up on, oh,
There she is.
I'm looking in the wrong place. Sorry. Welcome, Amy. The chair will make a suggestion that we take quickly. Amy's got several items here. If we take up items that came back from our last meeting, I think we can do them quickly. Would be 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, and 17 as a package.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? These are the items that were transfers into various repair and maintenance, which I'll read quickly, accounts, line items within the budget itself. And then we've already talked about where they're coming from, but we'll revisit that quickly and see if there's any questions. The first one is $5,000 for City Hall Annex. That's item number 8. Item number 9 is $8,400. I'm sorry, total of $10,000 for the Pelsier Building. Item number 14 is $5,000 for City Hall. Item number 15 is a total of $10,000 for the Police Department. Item number 16 is $10,000 for the Senior Center, and item number 17 is $2,500 for station number 3, fire station number 3. Amy, we did these at our last meeting with you, and I know you and I talked on the phone briefly. Each of these are coming mostly from heavy equipment operator or from a park maintenance man. Each of those you identified to us at the last meeting were surpluses in this year's budget because of vacancies in those positions, which I'm assuming continues to be the same. And I know you told us 2 of these accounts were in the red and the other accounts were quickly advancing towards being in the red. So it's needed to transfer the monies in so that the various buildings, departments, and and the repairs and maintenance items can be used so that they don't go into the red. Can you just highlight where each of these accounts are and remind us, because I keep forgetting, why money was transferred out of these accounts earlier this year?
So I can start with the first request with the, excuse me, the City Hall Annex. As of the close of business today, the balance left in that account was $482. And here we are just in December, so we are requesting the transfer to cover anything that's moving forward. The money was moved out initially to the Children's Museum for repair to the roof. And I believe the $20,000 that was moved out was not needed in the end. It was almost done in error. So moving to the Pelletier building, which that is the DPW building, that one is currently in need of a larger transfer because that one currently is in the red, $3,800, just over $3,800. City Hall itself right now does have over $12,000 left in its budget. That's why that one's a smaller transfer out. But again, with unexpected issues that may arise, it's to put the money back. The police department at the end of the day today had $109.58. The senior center was one that was in the red, roughly $4,900. And the fire station had $66 left in its budget.
How much for the fire station?
$66.76.
Thank you. And Amy, we're not going to remind you because you're doing a great job, but we'll just remind Mayor Garcia and our auditor that you cannot spend money you don't have, so no such thing as in the red is acceptable unless it's snow removal. Right, Tanya?
That is right.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Amy, or just, Councilor Bartley, we were ready to adopt these on the floor because this is the second meeting in a row we've done this. And thank you, Amy, for coming back, and there is a couple other items on the agenda for you. But when we say transfer to the Children's Museum, didn't we bond for the roof?
I believe the transfer was done before that.
Okay, in anticipation that we could do some repairs. Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
do you?
Yeah, if I can, you're challenging my aging mind here, but to my knowledge, what we did is we tried to get a temporary repair so that when we were having the celebrations with the Children's Museum, we were trying to get the roof repaired beforehand, but when we went out and did it, we found out the bids were higher than we had originally done. But I also think, I know we had to pay some bills from fiscal 21, and I'm pretty sure some of these building maintenance were part of that transfer. So we knew at some point we were going to have to come back and do some additional things here. But and Tanya or Amy, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking some of these that we're transferring to now, we ended up taking money out to pay for approximately $190,000 of invoices from FY21. So I think the goal here is not to, what we budgeted originally, but we ended up having to transfer money out. And Tanya, you correct me if I'm, or Amy, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that.
Tanya does have her hand up. Maybe we'll go to Tanya first.
I put my hand up like 5 items ago. But that's fine.
I apologize. We have Jeff is in the Wizard of Oz closet running the show for our TV broadcast, and I'm getting used to his laptop, so my apologies. Our auditor, Tanya Dolce.
Right, all right, and yes, Councilor Murphy is accurate in what he's saying.
Okay, and the money we transferred into those line items and paying those bills, has that all been used? The $20,000, whatever it totaled?
To pay all those other, that was $190,000.
No, but the monies,
And they were all for invoices from FY21. Before.
yeah, but the
wasn't-
monies that we transferred out of repair and maintenance accounts has all been used.
Yeah.
And now, because we're transferring back in from other accounts.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions on these line items? It's the second time that we've talked about them.
Could I just ask a question on parks maintenance?
Yes, Parks and,
Yeah. So Amy, can you just, I know we were short on parks maintenance men. And what are the number that we have there now? Is it 3 or 4? I know we budgeted.
Right now, we have 3 of the positions filled.
Okay. So just in terms of staying consistent, have we been able to use any of the overtime with those people to kind of make sure that we keep up with what's going on, or are we unable to do that?
The only time that John has had any overtime in that department in the past couple of months is for Saturday tree removal.
Okay.
So they haven't requested any overtime. They've been keeping everything steady.
Okay, thank you.
any further discussion, questions? On these items, the chair will entertain the motion.
Make a motion to approve the transfers on, is it 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, and 17?
So moved. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. And we will report this out next Tuesday, Amy, for the full city council and get everything back into the black and hopefully enough money for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
We still have a couple more line items for you.
Motion to take item number 10 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 10 off the table for discussion. This is a transfer request from power shovel operator, $11,200, to property maintenance and demolition worker, $11,200. Motion to take off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Amy, would you like to walk us through this?
So this one, we requested to table at the last one. Can I request an additional table on this?
Say no more. You explained to us
Thank you.
that you would be getting us an answer if it's needed in the future. Just to note, this is the end of the term. We reorganize come January 3rd. Possible that the next year's finance committee may not be in place right away. Usually the president has to reappoint or appoint members to each committee. So we could still do something on January 4th, but we may not be able to do anything until January 18th, okay?
Timing-wise, that would be perfectly fine for us.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to keep this on the table.
Motion to table item number 10.
All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Item number 11.
11 off the table for discussion.
This is the city, all those in favor? Any opposed? City council approve the expense of the fiscal 2022 home share Valley Bike administration in the amount of $9,610. This is to be paid from the TNC rideshare receipts. Reserve the appropriation under fund number 2601. Amy, I know we do this at least once a year, but would you like to walk us through this?
So this one, I'm actually going to have Bob walk
Councilor
us
Murphy
through.
just told me that.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And-
Bob, our city engineer, parent, welcome.
Thank you. Cynthia Espinoza may be listening in as well, so she may have something to add if I get it wrong. So I'm certain that Cynthia will correct me. What we're requesting is to allocate a portion of the money that the city has in account essentially from the rideshare revenue that we receive on an annual basis. You might recall last year that we went through the process of creating a revolving fund that accrues the revenue from that program, and in order to expend the revenue out of that program, we then need to come back to City Council and request your authorization to do so. So that is why we are here today. I can give you the last 2 years worth of revenue, and I'm certain Tanya will jump in because I've given her a heads up, and I'm hoping that she has the third year. But this last year, because of COVID, obviously not many people were using ride shares, so the revenue was down this last year. We received revenue for year 2020, and this is a look-back program, so the revenue is that we receive in 2021 is based on the rides in 2020. The revenue we received was $7,132.60. In The previous year, 2019, we received $16,475. And the balance of those, or the fund has the combination of those two years of revenue in it, and we're requesting your approval to expend out of that an amount of $91.50.
And Bob, that's for both years, administrative costs?
No, that would be just for this current year.
This current year, okay.
Administrative cost. I'm just noting that we received revenue for the past 2 years that remains effectively in the bank, that we're looking to spend a portion of what remains in the revolving fund.
Understood, my mistake. Got it. Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bob. On our agenda, it's stated 9610. So is that the incorrect number that we want to appropriate, or the expense? Because you said 9150?
Yeah, please correct me, Cynthia, because I'm certain you have the right number.
Yeah, 9610, it should be the most recent invoice we got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions? Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, Cynthia, what does that invoice cover?
Yeah, this invoice is the administrative fee as part of our memorandum of understanding as the municipality under the Valley Bike Share Program. So it covers consultants that help with the whole municipality when it comes to evaluation and any data gathering, as well as any connections with Big Weekend, which is the company that manufactures and manages the Valley Bike system. And right now, per the MOU, the city of Northampton is sort of covering those costs. So every municipality is sort of reimbursing or paying the city of Northampton.
So let me just make sure. So I know the company that makes the bikes is the contracts with them through Northampton, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yes.
And so this $9,600, that's revenue we're getting from the bike sharing, but we're paying that revenue through Northampton, I'm assuming, to this bike company. Am I correct in that? No?
No, the administrative fee does not go to the bike company. It goes to consultants such as, like, I believe PVPC and others within the city of Northampton that are working with Big Weekend, the rideshare company. So it doesn't go directly to the business.
So do we have say in terms of what we want them to look at doing? I mean, do we, say we like to go and check at, can we have 2 new stations at these locations and then we pay for that? Or does they tell us this is what we think you should do?
Great question. No, it's a little tricky. So the funding per se for new stations was through the CMAQ funding, right? And that funding in the previous phase of the Valley Bike paid for administrative fee that helped, cities like us look at the best practices or best places to have the station. Then the second phase now that we had new stations, it did not cover that cost of consultants to assist cities like us and others when it comes to the other stations.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
So am I correct in assuming that whatever revenues we get fully cover any expenses we have?
Can you elaborate on the question? I think the revenues from the bikes, I'm just a little confused.
Yeah, if the revenues that we get, I'm assuming we get some share of the revenues from the bikes. We get any share of that?
My understanding, no. Part of it, it's all covered through funding when it came to installing them and the actual materials. So it was covered, but we don't get anything from the company per se.
Okay. Do we ever get a report indicating how much money has been generated from the bikes in Holyoke?
So, I believe I shared in the previous meetings, we can ask the company based on the contract they have
Yeah.
from the grant. They don't have to do a financial statement or financial report. It could be, I did ask them, and again, because of they refer to the contract, so
Yeah.
we can continue to ask them and see if they're willing to.
So right now, they basically have not been willing to share the financial profitability of their operation.
Correct. And from what they do share during, so actually this Wednesday, we'll have a steering committee meeting, which is all the municipalities with the company, and they usually share, verbally, whether they're in the green or, the red or the black. Usually they're in the red, because the cost is greater. So, and the membership is still ongoing, so it's not like they have gotten to the peak of the membership to be able to be in the black. So from my understanding and what I have shared, they haven't really made much profit. If anything, they're barely covering their cost.
Okay, I appreciate your willingness to say that. I certainly have some doubt about that, but I appreciate, I agree with what you're saying, because I'm sure that's what you're being told, so thank you very much.
I don't remember the contract, but are the city of Hoyoke's receipts based on the gross receipts, or is it guaranteed each year?
So the administrative fee is based on the number of stations. So every municipality has a different amount based on the stations that they have.
If you don't mind, I can jump in.
How do we know,
please.
I think Councilor Murphy asked the question, but how do we know what we have coming if we don't know what the gross receipts are?
I think there's some confusion here. The revenue that we're speaking of is not bike share revenue. Just to make it confusing, it's ride share revenue. And ride share revenue is the state assesses a fee per mile to the rideshare companies, the Ubers, the Lyfts, and folks like that. And then they redistribute that fee out to the communities based on the road miles that are accrued in that community on an annual basis. So the terminology is confusing because it's similar. It's rideshare is the source of the revenue. Bike share is the administrative fee that we're speaking of right now.
I understand. So let me ask the question that might be on everybody's mind is, why would we have to use ride share monies coming to us for bike share monies owed?
I would say based on my understanding, Bobby can jump in, the TNC fund, which is the ride share fund that we're requesting the funds to come out of, they have to be used for transportation related.
I understand that, but why would we want to go into an agreement with a company that's making a profit for bikes being rented and pay money from somewhere where we're making revenue profits for city services?
Totally understood. One thing I could do, again, in the Wednesday meeting, I could ask and share those concerns based on the contract that was shared. They don't really have to provide those financial records. And again, we'll bring this up.
And consider
on
my
Wednesday.
vote no until we hear something to answer to my question. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, so either Tanya or Bob, maybe you can answer this. You had mentioned before the previous year we had $16,000 and some change, and then $7,132, so $23,000 in a revolving account that has come in. We've got one payment now going out for $9,600. Was there a previous payment made out of that account? And what is the balance in that revolving fund right now?
I can answer that, actually.
Okay.
As of right now, we have $33,532 in the account. There's been one invoice paid out of that account for the same amount for last year's bike share for the $9,610.
So even after the 9,610 was paid out last year, we still have 33,532 left in the fund?
That's correct.
And we're gonna pay another 9,000, if we approve this tonight, we'd be paying another 96 out, right?
Still have something.
Yeah.
So we'll still have a balance in there of roughly $24,000 sitting in a revolving fund with no other
That's-
use except paying this annual fee.
I mean, there are other uses that you can spend this funding on.
Well, I'm sure there are,
Any
but
alternative?
right now, I'm sure there are, but right now, there's nothing else that this fund does right now.
Yeah, this fund has only been in place for less than a year. At this point, it was an arduous process to get it put in place, but we did finally do it last year. We have the opportunity to present projects and improvements to the council and seek approval to spend out of this account. We haven't yet done so, but we do plan to do that in the future. And I can't tell you what those projects are at this point, but when we're ready to present them, we'll present them to you, and you can decide whether or not it's appropriate.
Okay, that answers my question.
Counselor Tomlin?
Thanks.
Yeah, I understand there's some confusion a little bit here, but the ride share receipts and use for the bike share. Cynthia, what happens, just don't want it to, I mean, here it's December, I don't want the bike thing to shut down, but what happens if we don't pay that 9,600 right now?
So actually, the stations will be open throughout the winter unless
Right.
there's a snowstorm or any other information. I'm gonna pull up the MOU and see what the specifics if we do not pay the fiscal year administrative fee. So it might just take me a couple of seconds or
And while you do
minutes,
that,
really.
Cynthia, I'll just reinforce that this fee is not paid to the rideshare company. It's paid to the city of Northampton
Northampton, right.
for the cost of their services to administer the program and to bring in support services as needed. So we would not be withholding payment from the bike share, would be withholding payment from a fellow community that a number of years ago, before my time, the city felt that this was in the city's best interest and signed a memorandum of understanding with Northampton to make this financial commitment.
Bob, if, I might be wrong here, and I could be a little bit off base, but when we first signed that agreement, the city of Northampton or the bike share company came in, put the pads in, set up the stations for the bikes, took care of it wherever it was appropriately within the city by agreement. Now the city, do we have to pay when the new location goes in?
The original sites, and again, it's a little bit before my time, but my understanding is the original sites were not paid for by the city, but they were paid for via grant funds that the city received.
Okay, so there's no loss to the
and-
city, but now the city, any new sites, the city's paying for the cost of the installation of a new site.
Yeah, and if I
The
could add, actually,
three-
for these new, most recent installment of 3 new stations, the city did have to cover the cost, but we were able to get a grant to cover those. So it really didn't cost the city. It definitely cost us staff time, but other, financial ones, we were able to get a grant to cover.
And I love Valley Bike, Cynthia, Bob, I love it a lot, but isn't the idea that it would pay for itself in a service offered to the users that put money into the rental of the bike?
I would say not, because the city receives no revenue. The city
The
facilitates
city
a
is paying
service
out,
to
we're
its
we're
residents.
losing money is my point. That wasn't the original agreement. The original agreement was, and yes, using grants are fine to make the pads, we all like them. But the original agreement was, in my memory, it paid for itself. Now we're using our revenue coming in from rideshare to pay administrative costs to Northampton for an administrative fee that we have no idea what Northampton's doing these days. Because we're doing all the work ourselves, the way I see it. Silence is golden.
Yeah, I'd say we're just asking you to agree to fund a agreement that the city signed a number of years ago.
I understand all that. I don't understand why the money's not coming from the money that comes through the bike rentals and why it has to come through our rideshare monies. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Mayor Garcia has his hand up. Mayor?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, would it help you guys if I look further into this and come back with a little bit more clarity on the concerns that are raised tonight on this particular issue with bike share and revenue and our relationship with Northampton?
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, yes.
So
It'd
do
be
you
helpful.
want to, sorry, Councilor Murphy, do you guys want to just table this and?
Before we say table, let me ask one question.
Yeah.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, if I can, Bob, just, and I understand all of this, and I kind of have had the same theory as Councilor McGivern that, and if I'm not mistaken, the company that owns the bikes are from, I believe they're from Canada, I, for one, have to believe that they're doing a lot better than they're indicating, because they keep wanting to come back with more. So that tells me something. But the other aspect is, if the 33,000 that's in the balance now, Bob, are we able to do things? And I'm gonna, first of all, I thank you for the raised sidewalks. I've had a lot of very positive comments about them, and I had. So is that the kind of thing that, or extending sidewalks to slow traffic? Is that the kind of thing that we could do with this?
Speed humps.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Okay.
The wording is fairly simple. It just refers to transportation network improvements.
Okay.
And that's the only specificity. So really anything related to transportation and transportation infrastructure management and improvements we could come to this committee and request approval to spend out of this fund.
Okay, thank you, Bob, and thank you for your help on getting those installed, and just for those councilors still going to be at, and for Mayor Garcia, just so you know, I've had people contacting me, asking me, can we do some of these in some other locations, because they've seen traffic slowing down, and I would say it's probably about 80% of traffic that actually really does slow down pretty significantly getting to the
No, it's great, I love it.
Yeah, they are good.
I agree with it.
Just before we get back to the mayor, Bob, what's the time constraints here? Are there any in terms of what we're in Northampton?
I'll let Cynthia answer that question. She knows better than I do.
Yeah, the payment is for this fiscal year, so it just has to be before the end of this fiscal year.
Okay. Mayor Garcia?
No, I just wanted to include, because if memory serves me correctly, the city of Northampton is the host community that maintains the contract between the municipalities and the vendor that ultimately manages the system. And
Correct.
so Northampton, I believe, holds that contract with them, and we pay a fee to Northampton, who then pays those that are maintaining the system. Bewigen, we purchased the capital from Bewigen, but I don't think they have any connection or relationship with the regional partners at this time, except that there's a company that Northampton has a contract with, and they're pretty much our fiscal agent right now in the city of Northampton. So we'll be paying Northampton to maintain a contract that they have with a provider that manages the system, I believe.
True. It's just a
Yes
question.
and no, just the actual funds that we're paying goes to, and I'm just reading from the MOU, and I believe it was shared with you, and I'll share it again on item number 4, section B. It funds program administration, staff time, direct costs, and consultants, but not to include member municipalities / university direct costs of staff, station design, capital costs, electricity, etc. That's where the fee goes to.
I'll work on getting a
That
breakdown
we
of all
are-
that. Yep.
Did that help clear some of the questions or made it more confusing?
No, my question, but I think Mayor Garcia is going to look into it, and I think a few of us are getting on the same page, is why we have to lose money to support Northampton MOU with with this program, which is a great program, but we should not be paying for it. The receipts of Valley Bike should be paying for the administrative fees, not the ride share. But Mayor Garcia wants to take a shot at it, and we welcome that. So if we're okay for tonight, the motion is to table.
Motion to table, item
All those in
number
favor?
11.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Motion to take item number 12 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to take item 12 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? In accordance with Mass General Laws 44, Section 53A, the city hereby accepts the provisions of the Recycling Dividends Program $14,400 grant with no match, and authorizes the establishment of fund for the accounting and expenditures of said receipts. Amy, I think we're back to you. Is that correct, or are we back to Bob?
Both of us.
Both of you. Welcome. If someone would like to walk us through this?
So we received from Mass DEP, the city was awarded through the Recycling Dividends Program under the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, $14,400. We received 8 points in their grading system. So we would just like you to approve the acceptance of this. Our plan is to just use it to reduce some of the recycling costs.
It's pretty straightforward. We received this money because of the success of our recycling program, and we want to take this grant and put it back into reducing the cost of the program.
Any further discussion, questions? Councilor Tom?
Yeah, just briefly, Bob, so you're saying basically the cost, I mean, at one time with recyclables, we used to get a check every year, and now it's costing more to recycle, so you're saying this money will be used to sort of offset that cost for the materials that
Yes.
we have to dispose of?
Correct. We no longer receive revenue. We incur a cost for all our recycling disposal. Not as much of a cost for communities that single stream. We still dual stream, but there is a cost there now.
Yeah, has that cost been steady now? Has it been going up the last couple of years? I know we talked about this a couple of years ago, the cost of the paper and the plastic and the bottles, disposing of them because of what's happening in the world. Has it gone up significantly in the last couple of years?
I don't know that I would say significantly, but
No.
we are seeing an increase.
You are saying, okay. Thank you.
I believe, and if my memory serves me, Amy and Bob, that one of the reasons that we went from making a profit, but recycling is the right thing to do no matter what, was because China stopped accepting the plastics for recycling, and they kind of held the market on the world. Are we seeing private companies in the United States picking up the slack of what to do with the recyclable materials? Options
With
to go
respect to
somewhere?
plastics, I don't believe that is yet the case. There's a lot of information that suggests that the concept of plastic recycling was probably greatly oversold, and that there is some plastics that are cost effective to recycle, but there are a lot of plastics that aren't cost effective, and that's why it's become such a problem, is the market for recycled plastics doesn't exist to the extent that it had been represented to exist.
And paper recycling is still somewhat of a profit, or about the same as it was?
There definitely are businesses that use, Sunoco as an example, uses recycled paper as part of their day-to-day business. So yes, there's definitely, there's a cost to them, obviously, to reprocess and manufacture other products, but it's a cost. It's a industry that can generate a profit, so therefore it is taking recycling. Whereas, as I understand it, a lot of the plastic industries don't generate a profit, so there's nowhere for it to go.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah. Bob, could you refresh me here? I know we went over this, a year ago or so with the Springfield Smurf, sounds like a cartoon character, but, at one point, we were being paid, I believe, somewhere around $20 a ton for what we brought there. And now we're paying, X amount of ton to dispose of it. Do you remember what those numbers were?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers, but what you're saying is correct, that we used to receive revenue, and we and all the other communities that used to dual stream like Holyoke received a shock about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that all of a sudden we were being billed for something that used to generate revenue for us.
Yeah, and I think that number was 20 a ton. Do either you or Amy know right now what we're paying per ton for sending plastics out, even if they're segregated, or are they going in our regular trash stream?
I do not have that number handy.
I don't. We can certainly research that. And I don't believe that we're paying separately for plastics. I believe we pay per ton for the recycled material that goes to the MRF, which includes plastics. Some plastics, again, are not recyclable.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Make a motion to accept the recycling dividends program, 14,400, no match grant.
Second.
Motion made and second to accept grant and report this to the full city council next Tuesday. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to take item number 13 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and second to take item 13 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is an agreement between the city, the DPW, and a contract with the sheriff's department. We laid this on the table for a couple of reasons, which just to have a discussion this evening if possible, and be able to get some input as to the amount of the contract and the need for we do not have the transfer in front of us, but the need for a transfer down the road if we're going to go forward with this contract. Amy, your understanding, or Bob, is this was negotiated, I think, at one point with the sheriff, with Sheriff Cochi, and it's for services that are rendered through their program.
Correct, yes.
And I don't doubt, knowing a little bit of the history of the work that's been done, that the services have been performed. And can you update us for this current year, has the sheriff's crew been used?
They have, yes. We use them July, August, September. I did reach out to our accounts payable person, and she said they have been used on a monthly basis. Our outdoor superintendent said the same thing. They have been used in several locations throughout the city to help clean up lots, as it states in the contract, debris removal, lot beautification, landscaping, grounds care. We plan to utilize them moving forward if we can with some loose debris cleanup along the High Street and Maple Street corridors. So yes, they have been utilized, they have been present.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, it's my understanding that this has been a contract that we've been funding right along, and it was effective July 1 of this year. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a 48-week contract going through the entire fiscal year, but I believe there's 1 month, and I'm assuming it's probably January. Amy, you might know better than I, but there was 1 month where they are not doing it, and I'm pretty sure it was a winter month. But it was a 48, and I believe it was I'm thinking it was $62,000 And there would
Yep, I have the
be,
contract here, and it is for a 48-week period, 3 days per week. The contractor agrees to pay the provider $360 per day for these services, a maximum of 185 days. So the services would be $66,600.
Amy, can you
And
tell us,
this is, oh, go ahead.
can you tell us who negotiated this for the city?
To my understanding, this has been in place since Sheriff Ash was in office, and it's just something that the city has done every year. It's generally gone through the mayor's office. This is the first I've seen of it. It came across my desk a few weeks ago, just with the question from Mayor Murphy at the time, is this something that we are doing? Is the sheriff's department reporting for duty?
And we don't have a transfer in front of us, but what line item in your budget does it come out of?
So that was one we were requesting also to come out of the highway heavy motor equipment operator position, which is the one with the largest amount of vacancies.
No, that's where the money would come from. But
Yes.
when this is paid for, what line item does it come out of when the sheriff is
I
paid?
apologize. This one would come out of its refuse, other services. So this account has been used currently to pay for People Ready, which is also the temp service that we've been using for day laborers. That was part of the union negotiation. If we had people out on workman's comp or IRB, we would utilize day laborers in their place.
This is a professional service contract, which the mayor providing the money is in the budget. I'm not questioning that. Is the mayor can sign a professional service contract to their own prerogative, whatever they see fit. Certainly, the city council gets to approve the budget. I've understood over the years and get the fact that, temps are used for especially recent years because of vacancies in positions and the issues that are going along with that. I've understood there's been a sheriff's crew coming into town, but I'm not sure if it's just me, but this initial request was the first time I found out that we paid the sheriff to bring in the crew. I do believe we have to honor whatever's been worked this year. I would hope, and I thought it was any contract, professional service or any contract entered in by the city, that the law department would be part of, if not the negotiation, vetting the language of the contract. And certainly, the oversight of the contract would be, in this case, the DPW, which sounds like they have a good handle on how the services are used and how the fairness of how they're paid for. But I'm just going to stop there. That's just where I think we're going to have to pay what we owe. But I think for future that we need some more answers as to why we're paying the sheriff
if I can.
for labor that doesn't get paid. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I will say, and I just in line with what they do and when they do it. I know they would contact me. I know they would contact Mr. McManus and say, where are there areas that you want us to work on? So they've been, and every time they've done it.
I have no question about that. I know they do a
definitely are
great
doing
job.
that.
I fully understand that. But if you come in with a crew of 3, 4, or 5, Amy, I think it was, there's only one person getting paid.
Right, it's a crew of 2 to 3 workers with a
workers, right.
supervisor.
And the only person getting paid is the supervisor. So why $65,000 a year? Are we paying, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we're all taxpayers. We pay that salary through our taxes. And this service, as much as I welcome it, are we reimbursing the Commonwealth? That's my questions. I'm not expecting answers this evening. I fully understand, what is provided. I have no problem with that. I just thought it was a supplement using inmates who are in good behavior and about to be released, probably pre-released, to do the services they do. They want to be here. They do a good job because it gets them out in the daylight for a while. But what are we actually paying? Counselor Tomlin.
Yeah, I agree. I'm same as my colleagues. I wasn't aware of this. I've seen the sheriff's department out there, and the people cleaning the city, which I think is a big benefit to the community, since, we're short staffed especially. And this is the first time I've seen a contract, and I know it's been going on for years. That we just weren't aware of it. It was probably just transferred from one line item to another. I mean, that usually comes through us. And I, like, as our chairman stated, I'd like to see next time to see the actual contract and the law department working with this, and then with our mayor now to see what is actually provided. And I know they do the work, and what is actually York Street Industries. And maybe it's a program, the money goes to a special fund to help out, people to get back to work, people that were inmates or whatever, or jailed people to get back to work, which would be a great thing. So I think we have to honor this and just wait for the transfer to come through. But I'm glad we finally saw the agreement, because since I've been on this committee, I've never seen the agreement with the sheriff's department. I've seen the good work they've done, but I think it's important that we sort of look into, what's York Street Industries and how is that money being utilized. And then I don't think it goes to the supervisor. I think it goes to some kind of a program to help out people that, trying to get back to work possibly. So,
If I can,
Councilor Murphy?
yeah, I don't know, and this may be also one of those areas where we had to transfer money out of that for that $190,000, which then created the need to have a financial transfer. Because I know the original part of the budget, when I asked about the contract, this is something that's been going on, so it was part of the original budget. So my speculation is that we, again, had to transfer some out of here in order to take care of the contracts from FY21. So, which is why the transfer is here. But I believe it's been in the budget, and if you look at the expenditure, it was 240, and in FY20 it was 214,000. But this year, this fiscal year, we've also started to spend money on temporary people more so than we had to in the past. So that's another budgetary problem that's come up here. So
Understood.
Right.
And just to clarify, Amy and Bob, so you know, when we separated the transfer, we did the repair and maintenance part this evening, and we'll get that done next Tuesday. The $65,000 is request has not been returned to us. That's with the auditor and with the mayor, and, it's pending, their approval or their initiation, excuse me, to get it back in front of us.
So I agree with Councilor Murphy that People Ready had to be used fairly excessively this fiscal year. So we've already paid out of that line to the temp service just over $80,000. So if we hadn't been utilizing the temp services, the money would have been there.
Okay, there's nothing we can do this evening. We await whatever the auditor and the mayor chooses to put in front of us to pay for whatever bills that are owed and whatever money you feel you need for the rest of the year. And I think my questions will be come May or June when we get the budget back in front of us. Motion to lay on the table?
motion to lay on the table the contract.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Did we do 10?
Yeah, we did.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we did the 10. That was the,
Did the table one?
Yeah,
We-
we're
we-
leaving it.
we tabled it, I
Okay,
think. She said to
thanks.
table it, yeah.
Art. What was that to deny?
Anything else? Table.
Table.
No.
Motion to take up item number 18 off the table.
Second.
Are we done with Amy though?
I think we are. I think.
Amy, are we done with you? That's
I think so, yes.
I thought so too. We just want to make sure because we bounced around a little. Thank you.
Thank you,
We
Amy.
appreciate it. You've been tremendous when you come before us to answer questions, and I appreciate it. And we'll catch up after a little bit of time with the transfer for the sheriff's contract. We just don't have it in front of us now. But thank you, and thank
Okay.
you, Bob, if you're still there. We appreciate anytime you come before us. You're both always prepared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion is take up item number 18. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Union contract transfer from union accountant, a transfer of $2,495 to pay aid to the mayor. Off the table, under discussion, Mayor Garcia, I think this came in at your request?
Yeah, do you want me to begin?
Sure, please.
Yeah, it was, so the budgeted dollar amount that was in that line item for the mayor's aide position was short $495. The salary that was supposed to be there for that particular position, which was in line with, actually, I think the executive assistant and the mayor's aide both get the same salary dollar amount. So yeah, we got the mayor's aide in the role set up to find out later that it was $2,495 short than what it was supposed to be, for whatever reason that might have been. So what we're looking to do is to right-size that by transferring, well, Tanya came up with this strategy to transfer out of the union accountant line item, the $2,495, to bring up the aid role to where it was supposed to be when it was originally budgeted for at the start of the fiscal year.
And Mayor or Tanya, our auditor, what budget do we find the union accountant in?
That is actually in the auditor's budget.
Okay. Don't forget to sign these things, Madam Auditor.
Oh, did I not sign it?
I'm not too sure. Someone signed it.
I signed it. I'm looking right at it.
Okay, I
Don't
stand
tell me,
corrected. Okay, why do you have a surplus there? Is that one of your unfilled positions during part of the year?
Yeah, it was open for 4 months. It's filled now.
Okay, but this will still allow you a balance to pay the rest of the year?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mayor Murphy, anything? Mayor Murphy, before Mayor Garcia?
Yeah, just so, what would be, with the 2,495, what will be the balance in the aid to mayor account for the rest of the year? And I know we transferred money because we didn't have the position filled, so
Yeah.
I do know that. But so with the 2,495, what would that provide? And I'm assuming we're providing it from what particular date in order to get the amount? And if I can make one other point,
Are you asking Tanya?
yeah.
Did you
Tanya?
get the figure?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought you were still talking, so I didn't want to interfere. So with the 2490 added in, it will be, hold on a second, I got to add it together. 2490 plus the balance in the account now is 24,662.57. So that will bring it to 27,152.57, which will allow him to have his annual salary of 44,392 from November 15th to June 30th.
Okay. So that's from November 15th, so the day the mayor took office. Through the rest of the fiscal year, and that is $27,152, which does equate to the 44,392.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And
You're welcome.
Who was the former aide?
Andres.
Okay, and Andres left, and that created,
Andres left prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, but
Right.
before the fiscal year. We did transfer some money into the executive assistant's position for that.
that was when we gave the executive position the increase that you requested.
Correct.
So that created a void when Mayor Garcia, when you filled the position.
Correct.
Right.
Well, and then there was, then we ended up, that was the start, but then there was something else we ended up having to take, and because that position still wasn't filled, we ended up taking another transfer, so.
Okay.
But basically, it was.
No, I'm anticipating questions on Tuesday. I'm fine, but Counselor Solomon has a question.
Yeah, Tanya, the pay union accountant, that's coming out of your budget?
That's correct.
And has that position been filled yet?
Yes, it has.
Okay, and taking this out of there, does that still leave a surplus in that account for the year?
Yes.
Do you know what the surplus will be?
Honestly, I don't know that I have that documentation with me. I could let you know, though. It's at least like $2,500. It was 4 months there where it wasn't filled, so.
Yeah, it was a long time.
All right, well, the full amount was how much? 60. For that position was 50,000?
60,000.
60,000.
Nope, that's the wrong job.
To the count.
So if it
There's
wasn't filled for
two
four,
accounting positions in my office.
yeah, so if it wasn't filled for 4 months, there would be 20,000 left in that account minus this 2,500?
51102. So this position was budgeted for 55,375,
Yep.
Well, the assistant.
and it was filled in September 20th.
Yep.
So that would be 4 pay periods at $1,600, right? Oh, 1,900, 4 pay periods. 1,900 times 4 pay period would have been $7,600. And if I take 24.95 out, 5,105 would be the surplus.
Kind of lost me on that. I thought you said the spot was vacant for 4 months.
Right. From pay periods, I'm sorry.
July, August, and September, but less than 3 months.
July, August, September, October, yeah, almost 4 months.
All right. So.
I'd have to do the math. I'm doing it on my phone, so I apologize.
Yeah, but I think those are weekly pay periods that you're
Bi-week.
referring to. If it was a
We have a
55,000
period.
divided by 12, so whatever, 40.
Right, we pay in paydays, though. We don't pay like that. So it goes by days, total days. 261 days in a year.
Okay. But I've still got kind of a large disconnect. That's 1/3 of the year.
I can literally put it on an Excel spreadsheet and send it to you if you like.
I don't think it's 4 months, so I think it's under 3 months, if they filled the position in September.
Yeah, it's only so many pay periods, right? That's what I'm trying to say. But I'm happy to throw it together, but I'm not going to trying to do it on my cell phone right now.
Right, okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing
Sorry.
what the balance was there.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're really not taking out of union accountant, we're taking this out of assistant city auditor.
Yeah.
So the number is for the assistant city auditor, but we got on the transfer union accountant, but in reality, it should be assistant city auditor.
Right, that's what it should be from, yeah.
The assistant city auditor is also called the union accountant in the job description.
Okay.
What is the
so
code?
you know that.
Do we, on the transfer itself, do we have the
It's
correct code?
51102.
Yeah, it's the right code.
Okay, so it's the right code, but also known as the assistant city auditor
In the budget, it's
in
assistant.
the budget. Okay, but
That's correct.
Just
but
to
we
make
got the
sure.
right code.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the right name too. That's the name in Munis as well.
No, Tanya, in the budget, that a lot of us would refer to, because we're not
Oh, the
as adept with Munis as you and, you are. We would just see Assistant City Auditor, but we can refer to the code is what I'm asking.
Understood, yes, that's correct.
The only reason I ask is if we have to make, what happens if we have to make a correction, we can't do it ourselves.
Understood.
Any further discussion? A motion?
Make a motion to make a transfer of $2,495 from Assistant City Auditor / Union Accountant to aide to mayor.
Second.
Motion made second to approve this transfer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I believe we're down to 19. Can we take 19 and 20 together for discussion purposes?
Suspend the rules, take items 19 and 20 together for discussion.
Motion made in second, suspend the rules to take items 19 and 20 together for discussion, and then if needed, separate votes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? These are, a communication from Megan McGrath Smith, Hoyle Community Preservation Act Chairman, regarding Amy Lando's increase in salary. And item number 20 is the CPA project funding extension recommendations. For purposes of discussion, we have Councilor Sullivan, who is the city councilor liaison to the CPA, with us, our auditor, and I think that's all we requested. I'm Jeff, I know you can't tell me, but I'm pretty sure that's who we requested for this. So if we could, Mike, would you like to run us through this, or?
Yeah, no problem. The first one, the pay raise, the committee met. Amy's been there for several years now. She does put in a lot of extra time as well, above and beyond it, but they felt the pay raise was appropriate.
It is roughly a 5% increase, am I correct?
Well, it's more than that. It's going to go from $25 to $35. So
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
yeah, that's
No, that's fine. I
Pretty
just
good.
want to
Yep.
know we're on the same
But
page.
they do have the money available in the account. They just need the approval for the expenditure. It's, do you want me to do both of these at the same time?
Yeah, please, I think we can, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other two are just extensions on the contracts. We had put deadlines in, both because of the pandemic and then part of the bidding process that was beyond everybody's expectations. The first two were historic. The first one was historic rehabilitation, 348 Chestnut Street, and housing rehabilitation, 337 Chestnut Street. These were through Valley Opportunity Councils and VOCES. It's just, once again, a timing piece. They received the funding late. We had approved the funding early. They have other funding that comes into place, so we just need to extend it now so they can get on with the project. They're looking for a one-year extension. The committee was in favor of it. They're both good projects. And the other one's a war memorial. This one, unfortunately, the contractor that bid it does not do prevailing wage work, so it has to go out to be rebid. And so on this one, they're asking for a 6-month extension. Originally, the current deadline was to have it done by January 31st of the coming year, and they want to extend that out by another 6 months till July. And to be honest, it almost has to, because that work is outside work anyways, and tough work to do during the winter. It's for the facade on the war memorial.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just, first of all, certainly the War Memorial is, and I've heard many things. Obviously, we heard about the roof, and I've heard about the deterioration of the siding, and the need for it. So is it because CPA requires prevailing wage? So when we go out to bid, is that not stated? So that anyone bidding would know that? And, I mean, obviously, we're gonna be another 6 months to a year later than we would have been, and I'm just getting concerned about the condition of the building.
I can only guess at what happened with the contractor, but sometimes, especially small independent contractors, when they see the amount of paperwork involved and the amount of reporting done for prevailing wage, it would tend to have them back away from it, especially if they've never done it before.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, and so we have to go back out to bid?
yes,
Okay,
and that's the reason for the extension on this one.
okay. And the other one with regards to, that's the apartments on Franklin and Chestnut, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously, they've done a good job maintaining the property, and I know they were gonna do some apartment improvements as well. If I'm not mistaken, they were gonna take what was a storefront and make it an apartment. Is that the one we're talking?
I'm not sure if that's the exact one, that sounds right.
Yeah, I
but
think
it's
it is.
Once again,
Franklin.
it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Frank. They came in to speak before us in another
Okay.
committee.
And what's the delay on that one?
Well, the delay is, now they've gotten it took this long to get the other piece of funding, the matching funding in place.
Yeah.
So our clock was ticking, and they were waiting for the other funds to come in to start
Okay,
the project.
so with this delay, when did you say that was gonna be completed?
So now they're looking for a completion date of December 31st of 2023.
It's 2023, okay. Okay,
It's currently expires 12/31/2022, so.
okay.
If I
Okay.
recall the rest of this discussion, Peter, also, they're asking for more time so that they don't have to come back a second time. They expect to complete it sooner.
Any further, Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, just on that, the increase in the salary, this was to the item 19 that we got. In the first paragraph, it says 25 to 30, and then it goes down to say 25 to 35. So it's $35 then per hour it goes up to, right? On the first paragraph up top, it says on September 21st, 2021, the committee voted 4 in favor, 1 against, increase the salary, Amy Landau, from $25 to $30 per hour, retroactive to July 1st, and going forward for 2 years. But then it goes on to say that down below it says 25 to 35. So is it 35 or?
I believe it's 30. I think that's a typo on the second
Oh,
paragraph.
you see the second and third? Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
it says 35 twice, so
The first time, the $30 is the increase retroactive to July 1st, which is a normal and appropriate when this is done. And then I think the second paragraph is talking about the region, about what these positions are being paid. And then
third paragraph
it's the
also.
third paragraph that we got to make sure, so we can report this out, correct?
Yeah, we could leave this one pending. I could get an answer for Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, just to make sure it's the right amount, if it's supposed to be 35, that we know that.
Any further discussion? I think the extensions speak for themselves. I'm surprised we have to actually vote on it, but appreciate the work that Counselor Sullivan does.
Definitely.
And the committee does. It's incredible, and the work that Amy does. So on the extensions, the motion would be to adopt and approve the extensions that the CPA has recommended.
I'll second that.
And I'm guessing we do this because it ties up the money that we have to vote on, we have to vote to receive, so the CPA can allocate it. That make sense?
You'd have to say that all over again.
Never mind.
It does make- it
I'll
does-
say it Tuesday.
It does make sense.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on item 19, I think we all know the work that Amy does. And I asked for the percentage because I know someone's going to ask for it, but
Yeah.
I think, the work she's done has been, as Counselor Sullivan said, very connected to what our role is, and very connected, more important, to what the CPA's role is. And it makes kind of sense to bring her up to par where the rest of the region is getting paid. Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, just a question. How long has Amy been doing this, number one, and when was the last time she had a pay adjustment?
She's never had a pay raise, and she's been doing this since the inception
Of the
of the CPA.
So 18?
About 4 years?
Yeah.
How many years?
That would, yeah. And this is a part-time position,
Right.
so.
And is it 11 or 12 hours a week? Is that what I heard?
In theory.
In theory, but-
She puts in a lot more.
Yeah. So I have no problem with the 30, because that's basically a 20% raise, and you haven't had a raise for 4 years. So that, I would have a little more concern going to 35, because that's a 40% raise, that's 10% every year, so that's a little different. But I think the council voted at 30, and I think that's more than justified.
He's going to find out the number for sure.
It puts it in the mid-range of what administrators throughout the state
Yep.
Yeah.
make in the same position in other CPA towns, cities and
Yep.
towns.
Any further discussion? If I remember, CPA is mostly, comes back to our approval after the initial acceptance and all that each year. Does the mayor have to weigh in on this? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
See, that's one of the few times that we get to do something without the mayor, you know? Very rare,
One less
Mayor.
thing I gotta worry about.
Very rare. On a motion to adopt. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Please,
Motion adjourned?
motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.